Redditors who left companies that non-stop talk about their amazing culture. What was the cringe moment that made you realize you had to get out? Had a wall of crazy where the CEO wanted to spend $20K on cool and eggy stuff for the office and staff could make suggestion slides, beanbags, napping pots, etc. Project was scrapped when the top suggestions ended up being desks, chairs, working heating, working Wi-Fi, health insurance. Hearing our CEO say compensation is only one part of the employment experience during an earnings call when he was answering complaints about underpaying his employees after we reported record profits. I learned at an internship that we work hard and play hard means we want you to work 75-hour weeks, but sometimes we will put donuts in the break room. If there are any leftovers from client meetings. Not my company but a company from a neighboring building. They had an entire area devoted to foosball, pinball, billiards, console gaming, and video booths on the ground floor, and it was clearly visible because of the glass windows on street level. Oddly enough, nobody ever used them, and the place was almost always empty save for a few people who used the internet kiosks. When I learned a friend worked there, I asked why nobody would want to take the opportunity to use the awesome-looking recreational facility. He told me that people who'd use the facility often found it used against them during performance evaluations, even when their use was not excessive at all. After a while word got around and they started avoiding the place altogether. The irony is that their recruitment ads always tout a culture of work hard, play hard. We have a great culture, lots of team lunches and drinks. When I started, our boss had banned the social club, birthday celebrations or recognition of birthdays, strictly no cake, taken away the Christmas party, the Christmas break period, and tried to stop people talking to each other. All the while she had take every second day off, and have long weekends every weekend. We had maybe 3 team lunches in the time I was there, and she always made sure to tell us that we would not be paid for anything over our lunch break. Even though she came too, we had to submit manual timesheet corrections to remove the amount we took. It is like, okay, fair enough, but cannot you just let it slide? It is not your money, and we are talking maybe 20 minutes here. A client also invited me to their Christmas party due to our close relationship and my good work on their files, and she called them and told them I was not allowed to go. She told me it was because she was concerned I might reflect badly on the department. Ironic, really. Lush, when we couldn't say bathroom on the shop floor and instead had to ask a manager for serenity. I worked at BQ and one of my colleagues was stabbed 30 times by a customer. I was completely shaken. The next morning we were taken into a big room and made to sign a document saying we would not sue them. If we did not sign, we had lose our jobs. Also, my colleague was stabbed only a month after they got rid of our security guard to save money. This happened a couple of weeks ago, when our sent out an email to management excluding me and about 2 other people telling them to fraudulently leave good reviews on Glassdoor and to coerce others to do the same. I was at a fast casual restaurant for a couple months and the GM always talked about the culture. You know what is a great culture? When the morning shift and night shift have their daily screaming matches over shit that they each accused the other one of needing to do. It was impressive just how incompetent the entire company was, from ownership down. Not me, but my husband worked for 2 weeks for a family-owned and operated business that touted how important family was and that they were all one happy family. My husband was on his way to drop our at the time 2-year-old son off at daycare before work when son threw up all over himself. Husband called his employer to tell them what happened and that he needed to take son home and clean him up, but he had been ASAP. His manager told him he needed to get his priorities straight. He responded with, "You know what, you are right, I would not be backing at all." He was still working part-time at his previous job where they had been sad that he was leaving, so he called them and told them to put him back on the schedule full-time. The family business is currently in the process of liquidating assets before going out of business, and I cackle every time I drive past it. Last year one was working as a subcontractor and I was assigned a new place of work. Just 2 weeks after I started, the new boss wanted to hire me. He put down the contract where compared to my current contract pay was down 25%, average weekly hours went up by 20%, vacation days went down by 10%, and I would not have a company car for personal use anymore. Before he actually handed me the contract to read it, he said, "I will only make you this offer once, but it is only valid if you change all your pictures on your social media and you sell your car. It is too flashy for our company. How about no?" This is for Flight Centre headquartered in Brisbane, Australia, but they are a global company trading under many names. I think it is Liberty Travel in the States. Anyway, everything about the company internally screams cringe. Everyone treats the CEO like a ducking god. His name is Screw, and when he takes a selfie it is called a screwfuge, and they opened a foreign exchange at the moment at the head office that they called a scrutum, which sounds like scrotum if you ask me. It is ducking ridiculous. When my art director wanted to get a pro bono poster on verbal abuse done faster, by screaming at the designer. Inspirations. When I went to firm drinks in a public bar and the firm's fund committee handed out song sheets and a choir of employees led by a bad guitarist sang a song about how great the firm was to the tune of "'Cause I Am Happy," we were expected to sing along. It was at that moment I realized I was in a cult. When I had to phone around to the corporation leaders to find out why none of the mechanics I had interviewed were hired, the mechanics had come from all over the country, and some had waited patiently for months to know if they got the job or not. Turned out the CEO had changed his mind and wanted me to take care of all mechanic work. I was a factory manager, but they knew I'd be upset, so neither he, or the COO wanted to be the one to tell me. I worked at this business that was real keen on telling everyone they were like a family and chastising me for not going to company parties, etc. But that also refused to pay overtime and expected me to work late 2 or 3 times a week, as well as doing a 14-hour-a-day twice a month for stock take end of month. Apparently because we're a family, we were all expected to chip in on the big days, except it was literally just us bottom-tier workers who had to stay late. I quit that place and never looked back. I worked for a company that prides itself on being in the top 100 places to work in the US. They bought the hospital I was working for currently while I was doing IT work there. For a year they let me stay at the current hospital I was at. I worked with a team for countless hours getting ready to switch out IT infrastructure over to match the place's new software, etc. We changed out all 900 computers at our location. After that was done, I was then told that in the next few months I would have to commute to the main campus to keep my job. A drive that for me was over 5 hours round trip. They did not offer me to transfer or even pay compensation for driving there. I was literally forced to quit at this point, all because a new manager took over on the new fiscal year and decided that the IT department I was in needed to all be at the main campus. When our university's VP explained that the goal of every tenured faculty member was to write enough grants to pay our salaries and replace us with TAs every semester, ideally every undergrad class. Also, we had be under a hiring freeze but could feel free to be creative and use temporary grant money to hire tenured faculty. Also, we had all be paying an extra $250 a year in parking fees to fund a new student parking lot. Dear Lord, was I glad I did already decided to leave. ETA I cannot identify the state university system in question. The comments suggest that it is not alone in its approach. If you are looking for a good college to attend, ask plenty of questions. For the love of God, ask about accreditation and do not take "we are finalizing it right now" as an answer, nor "we are accredited by the 3 other colleges we are CEO scamming with." If you are more specifically concerned about the problem I describe, ask probing questions about the percentage of classes taught by full-time faculty, and grab copies of the course catalog and campus directory faculty list to check the reality of offerings. I would also ask about advising. Colleges without advising staff offload that duty onto professors, and that can make it very difficult to get your advisor's attention. Bought out by an equity group. New president on call with thousands of employees says, "We have 2 kinds of employees: those that work a tremendous number of hours, and those that should find another company to work for." My last job was at an independent school in the UK, the wealthy type. During a period of streamlining, the entire faculty were called into a hall and told, in upbeat terms, that we were struggling to make ends meet, salaries were too high, perks were too abundant and spending was unsustainable. For clarity, salaries were not too high and perks were practically non-existent. Spending was definitely unsustainable, however, in part because they were spending hundreds of thousands redesigning the senior staff offices to hide all the cabling and install proper wood paneling. So then they started listing off perks and assigning them a value. For example, free parking. Well, no shit, the school has a lot of land and is not in a city. Why would you charge? Secondly, nice surroundings. Well, again, no shit, that is part of your marketing appeal. Long holidays. Nice try, but I work all holiday. They did not even get as far as telling me what they planned to do with my job and pay. I was gone in less than 3 months. My district manager told me to talk my key holder out of going back to college. Mind you, she wanted to be a doctor. They were proud that no one had degrees. That's fine, but I am not working 45+ hours a week and mandatory holidays just to sell some shoes. The loyalty my co-workers had were so cringy. They didn't understand how we were being taken advantage of because we didn't get our degrees. Anyways, going back to school was the best decision I've made. We management team spent months working with a business coach trying to collectively come up with meaningful core values. We devoted a ton of time to it and really tried to decide which direction we wanted to take the company culture. Everybody agreed on teamwork, reliability, a couple others that I can't remember now, and then one day the owner came in and called a meeting. He sat us down in the boardroom and told us he spent all weekend brainstorming and had decided on the core values. They were meaningful, ownership, neighborhood, engagement. Does anybody see what that spells? He literally wanted it to be money and just came up with words that sort of worked the way you do in elementary school writing your name poem. He rebranded the entire company from shirts with giant first letters and smaller letters for the rest of the words straight down the arms, to plagues, wraps on the cars, every duckin' thing. And that's when we all knew it was going to get bad. Money is great, but it was mortifying driving around with that plastered everywhere. When I started actually working on the floor and management was nowhere to be found. I worked at a popular travel stop oversized gas station. It is practically a state icon. They are famous for their good wages for a low-income job. There is a huge sign over every entry with the starting wages around $13 an hour in a state where minimum wage is $7.25. Customers think it is a great place to work. They literally fired a girl for having a stroke. Edit. So I actually did not expect people to see this. Sorry it is taken so long to respond. I wrote this right before I got off my grave shift. We treat our employees like family, ignores harassment claims, hires from outside the company, refuses to give out decent pay, will write you up for doing overtime, but the CEO just bought himself a new BMW. I hate that place. When I took a 40% pay cut with no change in workloads by being moved to salary. Treat every dollar like it was your own. Right after we went well over targets for the entire year and then was told a Christmas party was not financially viable because expenses. It is one of the biggest hospitality groups in Australia, by the way. I worked at an animal hospital that wanted to be and probably is to some the best hospital in the city, had the most modern equipment, looked incredibly nice inside, good Yelp ratings, etc. On top of that, we were told during hiring that we were a huge family and everyone loved each other. This couldn't be more wrong. This place was the epitome of superficial. The turnaround rate was out of control and people absolutely hated each other. The pay was horrible. Even though we charged double the amount of any other hospital for our extensive care, I give management some credit for their effort, but it was more about hiding issues instead of addressing them. We couldn't talk about our concerns because it was considered gossip and people were fired frequently for this. And apparently they've now put audio recording throughout the hospital to listen in on employees' conversations. I honestly don't know how anyone still works there. I am in management and we just got the message that bonuses for the last financial year were severely cut across the business. Probably going to receive 30% of our total potential at best. Then attended our financial end-of-year results meeting the next day to be told that net profits were 18% up, nearly 1 billion total, and the best performance in years, all thanks to us. Okay, planning on leaving now. This is what the woman who interviewed me said. Here at Cheapskate Architects we do not often do all-nighters for our customers, but when we do, it is a real pizza party. Also we don't pay overtime, we do it for the love. And your wage is 22K even though you are an architect. And also I would not be there because I am our management, because I am married to the director. Yes, we need in our department even though there is 3 employees. We had a problem with the client and the boss dumped all of the blame on a 24-year-old woman who was basically his most loyal employee. He made her cry in front of the client, as if that would somehow help save the relationship. A CO worker was forced to work while her mother was dying in hospice. Mom dies, she quits. They escort her off the premises like a criminal. When my boss planned an office day trip to a car show and brewery, then only invited the guys in the office. Even worse, when one of the women said we should all go, he said no, but why do not you girls have a spa day instead? He also put on a hella racist accent whenever he talked about his many Asian clients. Obviously there were other issues, but those two stand out. Go duck yourself, Tony. When working at a shoe shop, assistant supervisor was assessing people's performances. He came to me and said, Zalaznikov, you greeted the customer well, so I am giving you a big smiley face, and marked it on his checklist, but the customer didn't buy any shoes, so I am just gonna mark that as A. I got my 50% employee discount on my shoes and just walked away into the sunset to never go back. They changed the title of the receptionist to Director of First Impressions. When attending a management retreat, and was pressured into buying charity raffle tickets I could not afford. The 2 people who won before me donated their winnings to the same charity they bought the raffle tickets from. They were middle management pissing match people who make 100K. I made 32K, with a young daughter. I won a drawing for 400. I literally had nausea for 2 days trying to figure out how I was going to pay my bills after my job had just moved the goalposts on some sales performance bonuses I had coming my way, dropping it effectively from 1,000 to 200. Now I am the asshole who is going to keep the money I won. Guess I am not a team player. Bonus: this was 4 hours drive from home. Had an overnight stay, and one of those middle management ducks, in an example of what should be on or off the clock, said we should not be paid for the drive to the retreat. Frick you, I was on the clock from the time I left Friday until I got home Sunday. If you are forcing me to be somewhere as part of my job, it is all on the clock. My district manager did not like that, and I was already looking for the door. Pizza Hut, where will Pizza Hut take you? During the interview I was told the work is hard but we feel like a family and we can always bitch about the bad customers after a shift. The people there were horrible. The managers made you do 2 people's jobs for less money. I was paid minimum wage for my age, $4.00 an hour, and the company purposely brought on 16-year-olds for that reason. I was also told that they didn't have enough money to pay me, so my shift was cancelled. I was told I'd be paid to complete my training, and I wasn't. Our manager would fling the corks of Prosecco bottles at the waitresses to make them scared. There would be regular breakdowns from cooks and waiters. I would regularly get screamed at in front of the whole restaurant for silly things like the knives and forks not being straight enough, even though they would leave me by myself, as in, I was the only waiter still working 1 week after my first shift. The waitresses would always bitch about the other people in the restaurant, and would shout at me for asking questions. Even on my first day, at one point an outside chef was brought in from a different restaurant and he didn't realize he had to wash up cutlery because he doesn't have to as his place. That's an entirely separate job. So we ran out of cutlery and the 2 more experienced waitresses, instead of helping me and washing up the cutlery or teaching me how to do it myself, would just hoard the cutlery, so it was me that would run out. Then my manager would have another go at me. Frick that place. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.